institutions and enterprises look at sovereign control. As India cements its position as a global tech powerhouse, we face a critical question. Can we truly be self-reliant if the brains of our digital economy, our AI models, are built on foreign logic, our data is hosted on foreign soil, and governed by foreign laws? Some very fundamental questions which I think are very relevant in these times. So today's discussion is not just about technology. It is about strategic autonomy without isolation. And to enable true digital sovereignty, we must move beyond the nation of AI consumers to becoming a nation of AI architects. Just think about that for a second. AI consumers to becoming AI architects, all of us. And this transition rests on three non-negotiable pillars. First, indigenous AI models. We need models that speak our languages, not literally, but also culturally. Do we feel comfortable with our children, working with those models? From Bhashini's multilingual strides to India-centric LLMs, such as what Bharat Gen is building, our models must understand the nuances of the most populous country in the world to be truly effective. That was point number one. Second, sovereign infrastructure. Data residency is not enough. We need sovereign clouds and domestic GPU clusters. If the hardware and hosting are external, the control becomes merely an illusion that can be switched off by a third party. Third, scalable architectures. Our solutions must work at India scale. A model that works for 1 million users might fail when applied to our public health or agricultural systems. We need architectures that are hybrid by design, open by nature, modular, interoperable, and more importantly, resilient. Digital sovereignty is also fueled by advanced research. We cannot rely on technology and models made for use in a different market forever. We must invest in foundational research that addresses Indian constraints, low bandwidth, remote environments, diverse data quality, and energy efficient edge computing. A lot of what we will see with AI is going to happen at the edge. But research without use cases becomes an academic exercise. We must identify problems that are unique to India and then work towards solving them with human ingenuity and technological productivity. Few questions to consider. How do we use AI to bring credit to the unbanked at a lower cost? How do we provide precision agriculture to a farmer with a 5,000 rupee smartphone? How do we deliver personalized education in our diverse languages, even in the remotest corners of our country? By solving these, we don't just secure our own future, we create a blueprint for global use, innovating in India, for India, and the world. We are joined today by a panel of experts who represent the very ecosystem we are discussing, from policy architects shaping our regulations to the researchers who are pushing the boundaries of what's possible. The goal for the next 40 minutes or so is to move past the why and deep dive into the how. Our panelists will explore the dependencies and imperatives of India's digital future. But before that, we have two distinguished speakers who will share their thoughts on why scaling impact from India's sovereign AI and data will be key to unlocking our Viksit Bharat vision. First, Shri Abhishek Singh, Additional Secretary in the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Director General of the National Informatics Center, but more importantly, who leads the India AI mission, with a lot of dexterity and thought. And then secondly, Anna Paula Assis, Senior Vice President and Chair of IBM Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Asia Pacific. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome Shri Abhishek Singh ji to come up on stage and say a few words. Abhishek ji.
Thank you, Sandeep, and distinguished experts from IBM, from industry, from research community, and ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I must congratulate IBM for hosting this very, very important session on sovereign AI and how we can use data to to claim sovereignty in today's age of technology and AI. And it's indeed amazing to see this room fully packed at 9:30 in the morning, in spite of the long queues and the ways to navigate and to enter. So good. Thank you all for joining in. In fact, the day 2 of the Impact Summit, we have seen tremendous response. If there's been any inconvenience, we express regrets, but that's the way it is. When the numbers go up, and in India, when you do anything, you do at scale. So right from building a population scale identity platform or a payments platform or a vaccination platform, anything that you do, or even doing an event like this, you have numbers that is sometimes seem overwhelming, but yes, technology is there that helps us to navigate a part of it. And especially when we talk about sovereign AI, as Sandeep mentioned, like we need to break down, like in today's age of dependencies on the global supply chains and today's age of working with collaboration with various partners, what does sovereignty mean? What does sovereign AI mean? So ideally, if you break it down, and as our minister had done a few weeks back at Davos, like if you break it down into various sovereign AI stack, it will include the energy layer, the chip layer, the data center layer, the infrastructure layer in short, then the foundation models, the data layer, the data sets layer, and of course the applications which will drive adoption and diffusion of AI. So in all these layers, if you look at it, and if you look at where India is, of course, when it comes to the infrastructure, when it comes to having energy, when it comes to having surplus renewable energy, green energy required to power compute and AI, we are quite there. We are much self-sufficient, and the whole global interest of big corporates in building data centers in India primarily comes from that, because energy is available at low cost. Second, the cost of building data centers is very low in India, so that's why we are seeing a lot of investments in data centers. That the infrastructure layer, we are quite there. Chip layer, of course, it requires a lot of work. In fact, we are working with the global companies, including IBM, for building capacities in chip design and ensuring that we get self-sufficiency and sovereign control over how and capability for doing that. We do, our strength remains the designers, the chip designers that we have, because we have our chip designers contribute to almost 20% of the chip designers globally. So while the capability is there, how do we ensure that the initial capital that is required to set up sovereign companies which have IP over chip design, that is something that we need to work on. Going beyond foundation models, of course, we do have Sarvam, which is demonstrating their foundation model, and we are, and some of the models that they launched in the last few weeks are competing well against benchmarks. So that's something that's happening, and we hope that 6 to 7 more initiatives, which are again showcased at the Expo, they will also be there. Application layer, we have had the strength from a long time, and we do believe that application layer will be able to do. So I believe that with the right investments, policy support, partnerships with global companies, in the next 3 to 5 years, we will be able to have complete sovereign control, complete play at all the layers of the sovereign AI stack. But that doesn't mean that we do not have sovereign AI at the moment, because sovereignty in today's age of dependence should also be looked into, that what is sovereign. Sovereign should be defined as something wherein you have complete control over what you want to do, how you want to do, with whom you want to do. It's not necessary that you do everything yourselves. In fact, the way technology is evolving, there will be need for working with each other. There will be need for working with ASML. There will be need for getting your chips taped out at TSMC. And if you are able to decide what you want to do and you have control over the design of the chips, that is what should be considered sovereignty, rather than thinking that I will do everything myself, because that's not the way things will work out as we move forward. So we need to kind of pivot sovereign AI also in such a way wherein it should mean having control, having sovereign control over the way AI should be architected. And ultimately the objective that we have, what is it that we need sovereign AI for? We need sovereign AI for improving lives of people. This means we should design sovereign AI system that solves our problems. It need not be because the whole world is chasing AGI, we also start chasing AGI, and we will have sovereign AI only if we have our own AGI. No, that's not the way we position it. We position it is that if we can build AI which can solve problems of millions of Indians who are outside the digital ecosystem, if they are able to access services by using AI, by using voice in their mother tongue, and if they are able to become part of the digital economy, if they are able to benefit, if they are able to improve their productivity, efficiency, and and increase their incomes and ultimately help move the country on the path of economic growth, that is what will be sovereign AI. If we can use AI to solve fundamental problems in the sectors like healthcare, education, agriculture, if we can empower people, if we can ensure that healthcare reaches every individual at the last mile, that will be sovereignty. So that's how we need to pivot sovereignty, and I'm sure today we have experts. We have Amit Seth, who is building a whole research institution. He will share about how they are trying to contribute to strengthening the research ecosystem within India. And there are other experts who will share about sovereign AI. We'll have lots to learn from them. So I look forward to hearing from this panel, and the deliberations that go in will really help us contribute to the path that we follow in the days to come. So thank you once again for hosting this session, and look forward to hearing the outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary, and Sandeep, for the very kind introduction. I'm really happy to be here to talk about this topic that I think is vital, essential to the progress of all nations that want to embrace AI as a force for progress, as a force for good. India is at a defining moment in its digital transformation journey. Across the world, governments are taking deliberate steps to strengthen digital sovereignty to ensure that data, AI systems, and critical infrastructure reflect national priorities, regulatory frameworks, and societal values. In India, this ambition carries particular weight given the country's scale, linguistic diversity, and global leadership in digital infrastructure. Consider Bhashini, India's national language translation mission. It is more than a technology platform. It is a bridge. By supporting more than 36 Indian languages, it enables a farmer in Uttar Pradesh or a student in Tamil Nadu to participate in the digital economy in their mother tongue. That is sovereignty translated into inclusion. But sovereign AI is not simply about developing indigenous models. It is about ensuring those capabilities translate into economic resilience, institutional trust, and inclusive growth at scale. Digital sovereignty today means the ability to innovate with control, to deploy AI responsibly, protect sensitive data, maintain operational continuity, and avoid technology lock-in. It requires trusted architecture, open architectures, and governance framework that embed accountability from design through deployment. The urgency is clear. Growing regulatory and technological demands are accelerating sovereign strategies worldwide. In fact, by 2030, the majority of enterprises outside the United States are expected to have a formal digital sovereign strategy in place. India is not just participating in this shift, it is helping define it. The next phase is about scale. Sovereign AI and data frameworks must move beyond policy ambition and pilots to become embedded in real workflows across healthcare, agriculture, with financial inclusion, public administration, and industrial capabilities. From an enterprise perspective, there are 3 dimensions of sovereignty that leaders must consider. First, data sovereignty. The economic value of data is realized at the point of processing, not merely storage. True data sovereignty ensures governance, transparency, and compliance across the entire data lifecycle, retaining both trust and economic benefit within a national jurisdiction. Second, technology sovereignty. A sovereign technology stack must be built for choice. It should operate fluidly across enterprises, private, public, and at the edge, grounded in open standards and open source foundations, ensuring transparency, auditability, and long-term control without lock-in. Third, operational sovereignty. Mission-critical systems must remain resilient and insulated from external disruptions. Operational sovereignty ensures continuity, uptime, and independent control over processes. Achieving this requires a fundamental architectural shift, where sovereignty is not an overlay, but an inherent property of the platform itself. That means customer-operated control planes where organizations retain direct authority over deployment and system configuration. Identity, encryption keys, and access management that remain within jurisdictional boundaries. Logs, telemetry, and audit trails generated and governed locally. AI models and inference executed under local oversight with full traceability and governance. This is the philosophy behind IBM's sovereign core approach, embedding sovereignty into the cloud and AI architecture itself rather than treating it as a compliance afterthought. Importantly, sovereignty does not mean isolation. It means choice and control. It means being globally connected while retaining the power to define its own digital path. In summary, sovereignty is not autocracy. Hybrid cloud plays a central role hereby, enabling governments and enterprises to manage sensitive workloads securely while still leveraging the global innovation. Secure data governance frameworks will be foundational in India's next phase of digital growth. Today's discussion is therefore not only about the what, as Sandeep said, of sovereign AI and data, it is about the how. How do we move from successful pilots to national transformation? How do we ensure that sovereign capabilities translate into measurable economic and social outcomes? Because while AI may be the engine, data the fuel, and infrastructure the road, our collective responsibility is to ensure every citizen can undertake that journey with trust, transparency, and security. I look forward to an enriching discussion and how we can make that vision a reality here in India. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandeep. Thank you, Abhishek ji, and thank you, Anna, for setting the stage so well, helping us have a framework here for the discussion today around what sovereign AI means, why it's important for India, what should the stack have, what are the ingredients around AI, around data, around control, around infrastructure, around skills. Because all of these are the ingredients that we're going to talk about next over the next 35 minutes or so with a very exciting panel of, I think, not just eminent, but extremely knowledgeable experts in a lot of these ingredient areas. It's my pleasure to moderate this panel, and I'm going to invite them one by one because the chairs are a little tight. So Professor Amit Sheth, if you can please come here. Take your seat, and we have Mr. Rajiv Chetwani. Rishi, Mr. Rishi Bal, and Ms. Tanvi Lal, please. Okay, so I'll request each of the panelists to just take 10-15 minutes and self-introduce themselves. That's probably the easiest way to do it. So Tanvi, could you please start?
Yeah, hi everyone, good morning. Amit, thank you for having me. So I'm Tanvi Lal. I head strategy for a philanthropic initiative called People Plus AI. We are a part of Ekstep Foundation, which has been founded by Nandan and Rohini Nilikani along with Shankar. We've been around for about 10 to 12 years and historically have focused on building digital public infrastructure for India, which looks at financial inclusion. So projects like Aadhaar, UPI, and then many more in the education space. People Plus is very focused on AI for good. And going back to what Sandeep ji, Abhishek ji, and Anna said, thinking about AI diffusion and how do we create diffusion pathways that actually help these large-scale use cases create impact. So more than just thinking about use cases at pilots, what will it take? What are the ingredients? What are the ecosystems that have to come together for impact to be created? So lovely to be here.
Thank you, Tanvi. Rishi?
Yeah, thanks for having me here. Really excited to be here. My name is Rishi Bal and I lead the BharatGen team. At BharatGen, we are building India's sovereign AI and ecosystem. We're very passionate about the future of AI and the future of AI in India and creating the builders that we need to build the applications and the models that are needed to succeed. At BharatGen, we think a lot about three things. We think a lot about sovereignty, Indianness, and accessibility. And with sovereignty, we think a lot about supply security, the ability to service your own AI, and the ability to know what's gone into the AI that you deploy inside your sensitive sectors. With Indianness, we think a lot about language, of course, but we think about a lot about culture and perspective. And how do you have LLMs that actually encode your own culture and perspective in the way they speak and interact with you? And with accessibility, we think a lot about cost, right? Cost is not an afterthought when you operate in India. We think a lot about voice first as a modality that will drive AI adoption. And then we also think a lot about what are the underserved sectors that we can go into early on, and so that we don't need to wait for somebody else to build that AI support for us.
Thanks, Rishi. Rajiv?
Good morning to all of you. Thanks, Amit, for inviting me for this panel. I am Rajiv Chetwani. I am outstanding scientist at ISRO and director for Directorate of Information Systems and Management. I am with ISRO for past 28 years. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Shid?
It's a delight to come to be here among all of you. I was asked to introduce myself, so very briefly, I went to US in '81. One of the most defining moment of that, and as I just shared, was the letter by Dr. Yashpal, then director of SSC, for my application. So I'd done a couple of internship at ISRO, and I don't know why Dr. Yashpal agreed to write, but anyway, that changed one trajectory. 44 and a half years there in US. I just returned back to India with my wife for good. In US, I worked for 3 companies, had commercial products for my research. I worked for 3 universities and built very substantial research organizations, well known in their fields in the world. And I did 4 startups, 3 of them in AI, and licensing my own team's research to spin off the companies, and they have done well. And my prize takeaway there is that, or gain was the training of exceptional researchers and students. And they have become entrepreneurs, they have become, they've gone to academia and tier 1 schools and such, and they are in industry, and they've gotten outstanding awards, multiple of them. One of them is right there, Pawan, at IBM, at Watson. And then chance thing happened was I used to meet the PM on December 27th, 2023. Um, my objective was to discuss the part of the AI that we should focus on and make our own, we have to be excellent in owning that particular part. So like Western large language models, for the general purpose consumer market is one different thing. Chinese models are very different. India has its own opportunity, particularly focusing on high mission critical application, high value applications. Perhaps we don't need, we do need some large language models, and Bhajan and Sarvam and others are doing excellent job, particularly with linguistic part, but there are a lot of business aspects, manufacturing, pharma, finance, very high quality models with far less challenges and problems, less hallucination, and that on which they can build global products. And the chairman of our board, Ajay Chaudhary and Saras Sharma also, they've been talking about India as a product nation. So with that, IRO, Indian AI Research Organization, and we shamelessly borrowed from ISRO, so S changed to AI because we want to borrow some of the good things that ISRO has done for this nation. We are singular, we are doing something I think that is new. First of all, create highest end talent. So India has a lot of things going for skills. Many, even, we have created programming for high school students to teach them AI. That's going on. IRO is not needed for that, but really high-end innovators. And then prototype to product that that PMS talked about, and then take strategic area, particularly creation of these custom, compact, neurosymbolic AI models and composite AI systems, which are meant for high safety, high explainability, lot of reasoning, planning, other kind of capabilities that you need for specific solution, and few verticals that we have chosen. I'll end there right now.
Thank you, Professor Sheth. Okay, so let's get to the exciting questions we have. We'll start with Rishi. Rishi, as you, BharatGen is building sovereign models from scratch for India. Are there priority areas where you see these fully sovereign models being important for India, and where do you see traction, and what is needed in the technology ecosystem to realize that impact from these sovereign models? Just a reminder, because there's big red time board there, let's keep an eye on it, all of us. Thank you.
Thanks, and you can always wave if I'm going over time. I'd say that the need for sovereign AI is across the board, but there's probably going to be some phasing in terms of how we introduce it. And I think we have to think about what are the important sectors that we can start with, what are the sensitive sectors that we can start with, and think of it as a journey rather than a sector by sector adoption. What I would expect to see is that we will have areas or verticals within every sector where we'll see adoption, parts of governance, parts of citizen-facing work that we're doing, pieces of work within the financial industry, right? In some ways, I think there's also an interesting opportunity to start thinking of what do the digital rails in the AI sphere start to look like. The field itself is rapidly changing, but there is an opportunity for us to think ahead and think about what enablement can we do so that everyone else that's building on top of AI or using AI can both build faster, but perhaps as importantly in a safer way. So maybe what I'll do is I'll actually expand on that answer to say that what we have to think about is sovereignty in the context of the whole ecosystem. So how do we have an ecosystem of models, of inference architectures, of shared components that we can deploy across the country? There's certainly going to be an opportunity where startups and companies need to innovate and build something that's unique, but there's also an opportunity for us to have shared goods and shared digital programs that everybody can leverage. And so what will be interesting, I think, in the coming years is to see how this infrastructure and ecosystem can be put together.
It's a great point. Yeah, you can't build it just with one entity, right? So, okay. So Rajiv ji, ISRO is unique in some ways because ISRO has a tremendous amount of data that perhaps is unlocked yet, but ISRO also can be a big consumer for its own applications of AI. So how does ISRO look at the emergence of sovereign AI models and sovereign infrastructure in India? And are there opportunities here to leapfrog on the impact that the data from ISRO can create for the nation, including geospatial data?
Yeah. So my perspective on sovereign AI, my perspective on sovereign AI as applicable to ISRO is defined by a fine balance between strategic security requirements and the massive data available, especially geospatial data. Sovereign AI is viewed not just as a tool, but as a strategic autonomy requirement and as a critical infrastructure in space observation and Earth observation and space operations. In fact, it's a strategic necessity for national security, autonomy, and technical self-reliance. The way I see it from ISRO perspective is that the AI infrastructure needs to be on-premise and it should not require direct internet connectivity. That's a requirement from the strategic perspective, and the software update should be feasible through a file-based transfer when we can transfer the file using one-way secure transfer mechanism and update the software. And we can't depend on opaque AI. So the black box AI is not acceptable. What we need is a glass box AI, the complete transparency on how the models are trained, including the lineage of training data and weights of the model. The training pipeline also needs to be auditable, and we need to use explainable AI wherever it is applicable, and Professor Amit also talked about explainability. From the national perspective, the requirement is not just sovereign AI, it extends to AI sovereignty. So it is not just compute capacity or data residency within national borders, but it also includes applicability of national legal framework, which is very important now. And government is working towards that. Government is taking all the right steps in that direction. Coming to the second part of your question, so ISRO possesses, as you rightly said, an extensive repository of temporal, multispectral, high-resolution geospatial data, and AI significantly enhances the value of geospatial data by providing unprecedented insights into it. It can be applied to agriculture for crop monitoring, for predicting yields to detect pest infestation. It can also be applied for disaster management, for use cases like early prediction of flood and depth of water logs, even for zonation of landslide susceptibility zones. It can be applied. It has applications in prediction of extreme weather conditions. By the way, ISRO's National Atmospheric Research Laboratory works in that direction. And for this application, we also need high-resolution climate and weather models and advanced computing system. Another application is methane monitoring from landfills, and it is arising out of the rapid urbanization and using rising waste generation. Then there are many other applications like differentiating between snow cover and cloud cover, then NDVI, what we call it, normalized differential vegetation index prediction, urban sprawl applications, and then 3D city model generation, natural color visualization in satellite imagery, land use, land classification applications, even the surface monitoring, the surface fire monitoring in coal mines is one application. So there are hosts of applications where this data can be made use of in geospatial applications.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So next we go to Tanvi. So Tanvi, People Plus AI pays a lot of attention to use cases that can scale and horizontal enablers. Today, we are starting to see deployment of conversational and automation AI agents in India. Do you see areas that need attention to actually scale impact from these indigenous efforts? And is there a real need to establish trust to enable this scale?
I mean, a very short answer is yes. But
I
I'll go
hope it's
into
not
it.
that short. Yes.
Yeah,
ma'am.
yeah. So, firstly, as a philanthropy, our goal is to really study what's happening in the ecosystem, and we try to focus on AI for social good. So, these high population need sectors like education, agriculture, healthcare, and we really, what we've understood is that AI truly is being developed as a general purpose technology today. It's very similar to maybe how electricity or internet were, whenever decades back when they were invented. And very similarly, if you don't create diffusion pathways, routes for this GPT, general purpose technology, to reach the people, it won't. So while, and we've seen so many use cases just come out on this panel in the last 10 minutes, while a lot of value and purpose, like it could really help a person in climate monitoring, or the value of the use case lives in a sector, in a vertical sector. It could be agri, fintech, manufacturing, climate, wherever it is. But for that use case to really create impact, it needs many, many horizontal enablers to unlock that value. And I'll give you a simple example. When it comes to AI agents, let's take the example of Mahavistar. Very simply, Mahavistar is a comprehensive AI advisory bot that's being deployed today in Maharashtra to serve 15 million farmers. This is available through app. It's available through a browser. But please realize, farmers today have $20 feature phones. So the first thing they thought of was, how can I create a voice telephony solution which can work in Marathi? So while the value is being created for a farmer in Maharashtra, the first horizontal enabler is working with voice in multilingual. Mahavistar is highly benefited also from compute and models that are coming not just from one entity but many. So they work with India AI Mission, NVIDIA, OpenAI, Anthropic. They work with ASR models coming from AI for Bharat, which is an indigenous institute which is creating data sets and models which work with ASR and TTS, and that's just the technology layer. So the first thing that's needed for indigenous agents to create impact is operational readiness. And that comes from the technology layer, but it also comes from creating solutions that can deal with very noisy environments. So for example, in Mahavistar, they very early on, they realized when it was launched in May 2025, that the types of questions, because it's an advisory solution, the types of questions that male farmers ask versus female farmers, and the types of environments they ask it in, is it in a home versus a farm versus a noisy environment, is crucial to actually delivering the advisory. So the first piece is operational readiness, and a key part here is what data systems are you plugging from, right? So in the case of Maharashtra, there are 50 plus crops there. So it's very important that you talk to the ICAR or the FPOs and the mandis that are sitting in Maharashtra so that you get their local information. So AI-ready data systems from Maharashtra became very important. The second thing is institutional capacity. Agents, as technology agents themselves, will not create impact. You have to think about the surrounding institutional capacity within the state of Maharashtra and the Department of Agriculture that needs to get created. So for example, if a farmer is calling up and asking a question, and now it needs to get triaged by an extension team, you should be thinking about that extension team from the get-go, and that kind of capacity building, right? And the third piece, which we have realized is actually the most important, is trust. So more than a farmer just receiving an answer and not knowing answer kahan se aa raha hai, they need someone to stand behind that answer and say, I am giving you this answer, you trust me as an institution, and hence, you should be using this. And the farmer feels, okay, I know who is the person, institution behind this advice that I'm getting, and hence I should continue to use this, right? And what we've realized is, Rishi sort of spoke about this, there is some amount of know-how that's been created in Mahavistar, And we quickly realized that in agri solutions, not just in Maharashtra, but in other states in Africa, we should be able to package this know-how and give it to them. So while it took a couple of quarters to get to Maharashtra, they did a launch in Ethiopia within 3 months. Because they said, okay, this is the vertical where the use case is. These are the horizontals that are needed for agri, for farmer advisory. And they said, okay, Ethiopia can actually get started with the solution in 3 months. Last week, there was a release called Amul Intelligence, which is focused on dairy farmers, women dairy farmers in Gujarat. That solution delivery, not just technology development, that entire ecosystem went live in 3 weeks. So from 9 months to 3 months to 3 weeks, that's how fast we can go, and only because you've packaged operational readiness, institutional capacity, and trust. So we feel there's a lot of, and just see the panel itself. You're not asking just one type of entity this question, you're asking many different, right? We all have to sort of come together and enable that trust.
Thank you, then. That's actually quite insightful. Professor Amit Sheth, question for you. IRO is an ambitious effort to create deep skills, research capacity, address real problems. As you engage this ecosystem, what are a couple of key actions you think that the Indian AI ecosystem needs to take to advance and to benefit from advanced AI research and to ensure that there is long-term self-reliance, scalability, and leadership?
Thank you, Amit. Suppose I was the gentleman who started DeepSeek. I had all the money that he has. And I wanted to start DeepSeek and wanted 200 to 250 top-notch AI researchers and engineers. How many of you think I can get those people here right now? I would love to discuss with them, perhaps they're not using them personally as the, population scale, but generally speaking, with only 3 raising the hand, you see what's the situation we have. Our businesses have chosen to invest in things that are very incremental. IRO is a PPP, and when I went to many corporates about support for research and building the deep innovation expertise, most of them were interested in treating us as a contractor. What if I give you this, what can you deliver to me in, by quarterly? That's what they are looking for. That's not how research capacity is built. Let me share another very interesting. I just asked while I was sitting there a question to Gemini. How many technology personnel who went to foreign countries for their graduate studies returned? For India, the answer is 15 to 20% have returned. The answer for China is, guess what? So, according to Gemini, it is 86% have returned, right? And when I visited China earlier in 2005, already the 1,000 Scholars program had started. And some of the top people were, now many of those people who returned went into academia and research institutions. How many high-end PhDs we produce in India? Let me give you an example of what high-end would mean. About 1/3 of my PhD students, so far 38 graduated, 10 more to come, have had more than 10,000 citations before they graduate, and averages more than 500. This is one measure. There are many measures for success, but nevertheless, for research, that is the case. At AAAI conference, out of the 30,000 submissions, China had 23,000, right? So, severe lack of high-end talent is the challenge. Our local production is not that high-end. There are exceptions, no doubt. I can tell you a few exceptions. But by and large, if they are high quality, they would publish in A-star conferences. I don't see any of them. The ratio is 1 to 20 with China. So, creation of talent, high-end talent, not just skills, not something that you can learn from few courses, but one in a Gurukul system where they work and learn from, exceptional environment, ecosystem, which US had, which I have in US, that needs to be brought in. So first thing is the aspect where, you really have the deep talent is the first thing that we really need. And then we really need to think about our own needs and technologies, but the one that has global implication, global value. High-tech companies from West are making a lot of money here. They're using our data, they're making a lot of money here. Well, we ought to also create an environment where these highly talented people get into prototype to product, they get into, the IP is converted into global products, and then India makes, gets its value by solving Indian problem, but also global problem. Yes, India has unique problem, and yes, we should solve them. But economically, if you're going to be successful, you got to look at the world, right? There are many companies from India that are moving moving to US. There was one company that I'm advising on the university board of, and their investors are now US based or going to be US based, and customers are US based, so they are moving there. We need to solve, those kind of issues here, such that as again the members of my board say, Ajay Chaudhary and Sir Sharma and others say, we need to really make product nation, and AI is sure bet or clearly an important part of India becoming product nation.
Thank you for that. I think we have time for one rapid fire follow-up question. And maybe we'll go in the reverse order this time. So, Amit, having heard the discussion today, do you see any particular areas of synergy or priority that may have arisen for you? Or any call to action you'd like to make to this community here? You can pick any.
First of all, I was sitting next to Ricky Bell and Rishi Bell, and it's clearly there is desire for, strong collaboration. Yesterday, I was at NDMA and also IDM, the meteorological department. Strong desire to share the data. Perhaps if I go to Raju, I will get positive answer. So far as we take care of security and other issues like that, Raju. So I think that the institutions that are coming up here are clearly quite ready to collaborate. There are people, my own partner in IRO, Juhi, is an investor, but she is part of this highly technical mission. So again, IRO has already support from angels, seed, and scale up VCs. And so if we really can develop deep tech for us to be able to take care of number of issues for getting them to the market, that this collaboration will make that much more possible. So I'm very, very bullish on what lies ahead.
Thank you. Rajiv ji, either any synergy that stood out or any call to action for the community?
Yeah. So what I see is that today focus is on consumer applications and enterprise AI applications. But for strategic sector, what is required is a trustworthy, reliable AI, mission grade AI, and which is auditable, which is explainable. I'll give one quick example. So it's very generic, I'll not get into specific. There is a use case where a part or a component needs to be cleared visually. Visually, I mean using instruments which provide magnified views. And there is a technician which looks at, probably looking for micro cracks or something like that. Now these images, the magnified images can be fed to AI, and AI can take a decision to clear or not. But the risks are very high. So unless we know how AI made a particular decision, we cannot depend on that. And that's what Professor also talked about. So this is what entrepreneurs have to look at for strategic sector requirement. I would say that, end with that.
Thank you. Rishi, same question.
Yeah, this is a super interesting panel discussion, and I think that question sort of ties it together, which is, as I'm looking across this group, the question I'm asking myself is, how can I collaborate with each one of the people here? Which is, I would love, I see as an AI builder, right, we live in our own bubble. We build AI, there's benchmarks, we'll put things out there. But the thing that's most valuable to me is the actual feedback cycle. From real people, real industries, real governments that are actually building on top of the work that we do, right? And in some ways, when you're using sovereign AI solutions, you're making an investment back into an ecosystem where you will derive the benefits, right? You're not just contributing into it, but if you have an AI builder that's literally sitting next to you, right? This is an opportunity for us to build something together that somebody sitting, half the world around is not going to do for you, right? So I think more engagement between all of us in terms of use cases. I also want to echo sort of the comment made earlier, which is it needs a full stack. This is not just about, can I put an AI out there, right? And I want to caution everyone on this, because sort of the tech perspective on this is, let me build a farmer AI, right? For whatever reason, I've met, half a dozen people now that have done farmer AI, and it feels like something very simple to do, but it's actually very difficult to actually make valuable and deploy to somebody who can actually use it. So when you come together, you can actually create that depth of thinking and actual utility for the end users and customers.
Thanks, Rishi. Tanvi?
The emerging thesis is that AI is only as good as the data it has access to, and even just see the breadth of not just knowledge but data systems that each one of us is sitting behind. So my call to action and urge is that we have to start thinking of data as a foundation. If you are sitting on data, it could be public sector, civil society, private sector. How do I strengthen that foundation? But secondly, how do I create access such that AI models and applications can actually be built on top of it? So AI readiness of data is crucial, and we have to actively think about it, because just like no one entity can make a use case successful, it has to be a culmination of a collaboration of many. Similarly, it's very unlikely that just one data source will create the perfect application. Many data silos have to be broken and brought together. So, and I genuinely believe there's a lot of emphasis on compute and foundational models in India. But there needs to be an equal emphasis and action taken on the data piece. Because if you're not able to open up our data sources, then we are receiving answers which are not applicable to us, right? So that's both a call to action and also an urge that if you're thinking about this, please do reach out to me and People Plus AI, because we are actively thinking about this in different sectors.
Awesome. Thank you. And I think we made it just in time. We could not get to question and answers. I apologize, but it was a very short time for the entire session. Thank you, everybody, for your attention today. And enjoy the rest of the day. Oh.